deepest insights came from seeing the world in a way no one else could understand? What if the very thing that set you apart, that made you feel alone, was also the source of your most authentic voice? Hello everyone, welcome to the Reaction Room with Amy Fortran. Today we're going to react to the poem or analyze a poem titled Alone, written by Edgar Allan Poe. This poem offers us a rare window into the mind of one of literature's most enigmatic figures, written when he was just 20 years old. This deeply autobiographical work remained unpublished during his lifetime, perhaps too personal or too revealing of the inner workings of a mind that would go on to create some of the most haunting literature in the American canon. Today we will explore how this brief but profound poem illuminates the paradox of the heart of authentic self-expression. That our most unique perceptions, the very things that separate us from others, may also be the source of our deepest insight and creative power. As usual, I would like you to join me to the Poetry Show channel on YouTube so that we can play this poem Alone, written by Edgar Allan Poe, for you, and afterwards we will start analyzing them, or we'll talk about it because it is more like a biographical kind of analysis today.
From childhood's hour, I have not been as others were. I have not seen as others saw. I could not bring my passions from a common spring. From the same source, I have not taken my sorrow. I could not awaken my heart to the joy at the same tone. And all I loved alone. Then, in my childhood, in the dawn of a most stormy life, most drawn from every depth of good and ill, the mystery which bindeth me still. From the torrent or the fountain, from the red cliff of the mountain, from the sun that round me rolled in its autumn tint of gold, from the lightning in the sky as it passed me flying by, from the thunder and the storm, and the cloud that took form when the rest of heaven was blue, of a demon in my view.
In just 22 lines, Poe captures the essential experience of the outsider, the visionary, the truth seeker, who perceives what others cannot or will not see. And in doing so, he invites us to consider our own relationship with solitude, perception, and authentic voice. Join me as we unravel the mystery that bound Poe and perhaps binds us all in our search for meaning and connection in a world where our deepest truths may set us apart from others. To understand Alone, we must first understand the circumstances of his creation. Written in 1829, the poem emerged from a period of profound loss and transition in Poe's young life. Earlier that year, Poe's foster mother, Frances Allen, had died. Though their relationship was complicated, her death represented yet another severing of human connection for a young man whose life had been defined by abandonment. Poe lost his mother to tuberculosis when he was only 2 years old. His father had already abandoned the family. Though taken in by the wealthy Allan family, he was never legally adopted, existing in a state of belonging yet not belonging, a thing that would haunt his work throughout his life. By 1829, Poe had already been forced to withdraw from the University of Virginia due to gambling debts. had a falling out with his foster father and had published his first small book of poetry to little notice. At 20, he was already intimately acquainted with isolation. Remarkably, Alone remained unpublished during Poe's lifetime. It wasn't until 1875, that is 26 years after his death, that the poem was discovered and published. Perhaps its raw vulnerability, its direct acknowledgement of difference and isolation, made it too personal for the young poet to share with the world. What makes Alone particularly valuable to us is precisely this quality of unguarded self-revelation. Unlike his more crafted public works, this poem offers us a glimpse of Poe before he became Poe, before he constructed the literary persona for which he would become famous. Here we find the authentic voice that would later be channeled into his more famous works.
I have not been as others were. I have not seen as others saw. I could not bring my passions from a common spring.
The poem opens with an immediate declaration of difference. Not a difference that developed over time, but one that has existed from childhood's hour. This is not learned behavior, but an inherent way of being in the world. Notice how Poe distinguishes between being and seeing. I have not been as others were. I have not seen as others saw. This suggests that perception itself, how we see and interpret the world, is fundamental to our identity. For truth seekers, this raises a profound question. To what extent does authentic perception require us to break from conventional ways of seeing?
Spring. From the same source, I have not taken my sorrow. I could not awaken my heart to the joy at the same tone. And all I loved alone.
Poe extends this difference to emotional experience. His passions, sorrows, and joys come from different sources than those of others. Even love, perhaps, especially love, is experienced in isolation. The repetition of "I could not" suggests not willful refusal, but inability, as if the speaker is constructed differently at some fundamental level. For Poe, this difference isn't a choice, but an inescapable condition of existence. The line, "and all I loved alone," carries particular weight, even in love. That most connecting of human experiences, the speaker finds himself fundamentally separate. His capacity for love doesn't bridge the gap between himself and others. It only highlights the distance. For truth seekers, this raises a challenging question. Is authentic perception inherently isolating? Must we choose between connection with others and fidelity to our own unique vision of reality?
Then, in my childhood, in the dawn of a most stormy life, most drawn from every depth of good and ill, the mystery which bindeth me still.
Here, Poe shifts from describing his difference to exploring his origins. The phrase "in the dawn of a most stormy life" is particularly revealing, suggesting that even as a child, Poe sensed the turbulence that would characterize his existence. Notice how Poe describes the formation of his unique perception. It was drawn from every depth of good and ill. This suggests that his difference, his capacity to see what others cannot, emerges from experiencing the full spectrum of human existence, both its light and shadow. The mystery which binds me still is a fascinating phrase. It suggests that Poe's unique perception is both a revelation and a constraint. something that shows him truths others cannot see, but is also something that limits him, that keeps him bound to a particular way of being in the world.
From the torrent or the fountain, from the red cliff of the mountain, from the sun that round me rolled in its autumn tint of gold.
In this section, Poe turns to nature as the source of his unique vision. But this isn't nature as mere scenery or backdrop. It's nature as revelation, as a text to be read for deeper meaning. The repeated use of from creates a rhythmic intensity, suggesting that the speaker's vision comes not from a single source, but from multiple encounters with the natural world. Each element, the torrent, the mountain, the sun, contributes to the formation of his unique perspective. For romantic poets like Poe, nature wasn't simply something to be observed objectively. It was a mirror of the human soul, a source of transcendent insight. In this passage, we see how Poe's unique perception is shaped by his capacity to see in nature what others might miss, to read the natural world as a text filled with personal significance.
From the lightning in the sky as it passed me flying by, from the thunder and the storm, and the cloud that took form, when the rest of heaven was blue, of a demon in my view.
The poem culminates in a striking image. While others see only a cloud against an otherwise blue sky, the speaker perceives a demon. This is the ultimate expression of his different way of seeing things. That is, his capacity to perceive the ominous, the supernatural, the threatening, where others see only the ordinary. The parenthetical phrase, "when the rest of heaven was blue," is crucial. It emphasizes that the speaker's vision of the demon isn't shared by others. That's a conventional perception. There's nothing remarkable about this scene. The demon exists only in my view. This final image perfectly encapsulates the paradox of the heart of the poem. The speaker's unique perception both isolates him and grants him access to a deeper reality. His vision of the demon may separate him from others, but it also reveals a truth, or at least a possibility, that conventional perception misses. What makes the conclusion so powerful is its ambiguity. Is the speaker's vision of the demon a gift or a curse? Is he seeing something real that others miss, or projecting his own inner darkness onto the external world? Poe leaves these questions unanswered, suggesting perhaps that the line between visionary insight and troubling hallucination is not always clear. For truth seekers, this raises profound questions about the nature of perception itself. How do we distinguish between authentic insight and projection? When we see differently from others, are we perceiving a deeper reality or simply imposing our own psychological state on the world around us? At its core, Alone explores what we might call the paradox of authentic perception, that seeing truthfully may require us to see differently from others, and that this difference inevitably creates a sin of isolation. Throughout history, those who have perceived reality in unconventional ways, from artists and philosophers to scientists and even spiritual leaders, have often experienced this same paradox. Their insights separated them from their contemporaries, even as those insights offered new possibilities for human understanding. For Poe, this early recognition of his fundamental difference became the wellspring of his creative power. The same capacity to see demons in clouds would later allow him to create the psychological depth and supernatural atmosphere of works like The Raven, The Telltale Heart, and The Fall of the House of Usher. In a profound sense, all authentic creation requires a willingness to be alone, to trust one's own perception even when it diverges from conventional understanding. The path to authentic self-expression inevitably passes through the territory of solitude. In a contemporary world, the tension between authentic perception and connection with others takes new forms. Social media simultaneously connects us and isolates us, often rewarding conformity of thought while punishing difference. Yet the lesson of Poe's alone remains relevant, that authentic voice emerges from
not echoing others,
but from the courage to see differently, even when that difference creates a sense of isolation. Perhaps the ultimate paradox is that Poe's willingness to express his aloneness, to articulate the experience of seeing differently, creates a bridge across the very isolation he describes. In naming his difference, he makes connection possible. Alone reminds us that the path to authentic self-expression is really easy. It requires a willingness to set what others may miss, to feel what others may not understand, and to speak from that unique perspective, even when doing so sets us apart. Poe's willingness to embrace his difference, to accept the mystery which binds me still, ultimately transformed American literature and continues to influence our cultural understanding of the relationship between creativity, perception, and the human psyche. As we conclude our exploration of this remarkable poem, I invite you to consider your own relationship with solitude and perception. What do you see that others might not see? What do you see that others miss? What aspect of your authentic voice emerges from the unique way of perceiving the world? And how might embracing that difference, despite the isolation it sometimes creates, lead to your most meaningful contributions? I want you to put that in the comment section. For as Poe's life and work demonstrates, it is often our most solitary perception that, when expressed authentically, creates the deepest connection with others. This actually brings us to the end of our reaction video for today on this poem titled Alone, written by Edgar Allan Poe. I would like you to follow us on our social media platforms that are displayed on the screen. You can also go to our website www.poetree.ca to have access to poems written by different poets. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And if you have been watching our video without subscribing, I don't know what you're waiting for. I would like you to hit that subscribe button right now. Or if you're just joining us for the first time, also hit on that subscribe button. And click on the notification bell so that whenever we post our poems or our reaction videos, you will be the first to get notified. Till we see you again on the next video, bye for now.